What's up, guys? Thanks for coming back to another episode of EV Music. A couple of my peers at least have came to me and asked me sometimes, like, can you help me with this in Ableton, or how do I use this kind of software? Well, today, that's what I want to teach you guys, is how I kind of learn some of this stuff. But without further ado, let's start learning. What does a dynamic compressor do? That's an awesome question. So what I've kind of discovered from exploring compressors is I kind of like to think of them as an automated volume slider, if that makes any sense. I'll show you what I mean. So as you can see, all I was doing there is turning up and down the volume knob according to the beat of the song, which is normally where the kick drum would be. Let me show you what it sounds like with the kick drum. So essentially what's happening here is every time the kick drum comes in, the compressor is turning down that volume on the piano. And you can hear that even without the kick drum when I leave it muted, as you saw in the beginning. And that's why I did that, so you guys could hear the effect. And that's something called sidechaining. It's used a lot in EDM and house music. You hear that kind of pumping effect in chords, or it may be the piano or whatever. But compressors, they don't need an external audio signal like a kick drum to be activated. They can also be activated on themselves using something called peak detection. That's where you take a threshold and you have your audio file going into the compressor, for example, the piano. And when that piano reaches a certain loudness and it meets that threshold, that's when that compression starts being applied, and the compressor will turn down the volume of that signal according to a ratio. Now this is a lot to throw at you, so what I want us to do is I want us to start getting hands-on with a compressor. And you can do this for free. You don't need Ableton. There's many free digital audio workstations out there that will allow you to use compressors. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Get your laptops ready, and we'll see you in the next video. How did I do that? So first of all, you'll notice I have GarageBand loaded up. GarageBand is a free digital audio workstation that you can download on Mac, and it's available for free on the Mac App Store. Now this right here is the compressor that we're not only going to look how it affects our sound, but we're going to see how can we create our own version of this compressor that we can load as what's called a plugin. To download this compressor, it's completely free. You just go to audiodamage.com, free downloads, and scroll all the way down to where it says Rough Rider 2. Now they do have a third version, but we're going to be looking at the second version and how can we recreate that. Because right here we have this cool audio plugin that looks amazing, but what's going on under the hood of that audio plugin to make it sound cool? So when you first open up GarageBand, you'll be presented with this. We're going to create a new drummer track, and you can put your favorite beat on this track. I chose the electronic, and Julian is going to cook up some tasty beats for us. And then what you want to do to load the plugin is click on this knob icon and go to your downloads. Hopefully you installed Rough Rider at this point, and you will see it right there. And once you open that up, we're just going to turn all our knobs to a control state that's kind of stable for us. So that way we just change one knob at a time and we understand completely what that knob is doing to our sound. So I'm going to turn the ratio down all the way, the attack release sensitivity down, and the mix is going to stay at 100% and our makeup gain we're going to turn at 0 for now. So now there's no compression being applied at all. In fact, all I'm going to do when I change this knob is increase the volume of our track. So here's how that's done. And there you have it, hard bass music. But there's something else besides a volume increase going on here. There's some distortion you can hear in the sound of that kick drum. And that's why we're going to go into some of the under the hood stuff. What's actually happening that creates that sound? Until next time, see you in the next video tomorrow. Peace. What's up, guys? Thanks for coming to episode 3 of Under the Hood. Today we're going to be taking a look at clipping. Now, what is clipping? Well, I'm about to demonstrate how that sounds. So you might want to turn down your volume just a tad. So this is what clipping sounds like. So the drum beat, it's a little bit crunchy, and that's why. But how can we resolve this? Dynamic compression. So let's see what happens when we turn up the sensitivity on our compressor. So you can hear that the volume starts ducking down, and therefore it resolves some of that clipping that was going on. Let's see how clipping actually visually affects our audio signal. So I got the whiteboard out today so I can show you guys. This is what a sound looks like, right? It's a sine wave. And what happens, this is the amplitude of that sine wave, right? The loudness. But your digital audio workstation, it has a maximum loudness that's set. Right now, our loudness is at 0 dB. And we'll go into a little bit more detail in the next couple videos. But what happens, let's say right there, that line is 0 dB. So what your digital audio workstation is going to do, once this sound reaches its maximum level, which is 0 dB, it's going to shave off the top of your wave. So now, your beautiful sine wave was turned into a little bit of a square wave. And that's actually that bit of crunchiness that you hear, is that transformation into a square wave. But we don't want that, so that's why we use a compressor. Now that you guys saw that demonstration, I want to show you how you can do this on your own. So today, if you haven't noticed, we're on Windows, and we're using a free digital audio workstation called Cakewalk. So some video actually got corrupted. I can't show you guys how to download Cakewalk and all that, but if you're still unclear, just look up some videos. There's a bunch of them. But we're gonna jump to the sequencer view and create our drum beat. Get this little kind of, I forgot what this type of beat is called, but I like it. And then the hi-hat on the 8th notes. And then we're gonna loop that, just like that. And now it sounds like this. So now what we want to do is we want to add our compressor so we can create that compression effect. So all we have to do is open up this little side panel here, and just like GarageBand, you add your audio effects and go to Rough Rider. And it looks exactly the same. And this is what I like about cross-platform, is it's going to work the same, almost the same on every device. And that's something cool about audio plugins that you can do. So now what you're going to do is just turn up the ratio all the way. And again, we'll get into some of these other controls a little bit later. But I just want you to change one, so that way you get an idea of what that control is doing. And then the attack, I'm going to set at 6.5. And then the release, 1.3. Sensitivity all the way up. Makeup gain all the way up, and the mix is all the way up. So you can see our compressor is all the way activated. But what happens when we turn down that sensitivity? We get some of that clipping again, which can be good sometimes, but also distorts our audio signal a little bit. So we're going to get into what this sensitivity actually does in the next video. But for now, I'm running out of time, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace. What's up, guys? Thanks for coming to episode 4 of Under the Hood. What I was doing there to change that sound, I don't know if you could hear the difference, but I was changing the threshold of Ableton's compressor. Now, the reason I'm using Ableton today is because they have a better visualization of the threshold level and what that level is actually doing to our audio signal. So this orange line right here is representing the amount of gain reduction. And so when this dips down, you know that the compressor is applying a certain amount of gain reduction. And as we've talked about before, that gain reduction is applied by the factor of the ratio. So funny thing is, if I actually have this ratio at 1:1 all the time, nothing's happening, right? Because we actually have to reduce it by a ratio. So here's something cool to take a look at. This is a graph that I found in various articles. So on this y-axis, you have your output signal. So if we're reducing that signal by a ratio, we know our output is going to be lower. And this right here, you can tell, is the halfway point because it's 2:1. But let's say we have a ratio of 1,000:1. Well, Ableton, if we type that in, let's do that. Let's do 1,000:1. Ableton says it's infinity because it practically is. If we look, 1/1000 is 0.001. So that's practically at the threshold. And that right there is something called limiting, which we'll get to later down the road. But what you guys should understand is the level of our threshold defines where that compression is going to start being applied. But the ratio defines how close to the threshold that compression is going to be, that turning down of the volume. So always remember that.